So, here's how my first big alien adventure started. Not with a wise council of intergalactic elders, not with shiny starships or mysterious glowing relics. No, my luck had me stumble on a half-dead, half-naked, very cranky Beastwoman sprawled in a crater, bleeding and glaring like I was the idiot who dropped her there. I had exactly two options: walk away and pretend I never saw her, or do the dumb thing that would change my life forever. Naturally, I did the dumb thing. I crouched down with my trusty first aid kit, the same one I mostly use for paper cuts and the occasional kitchen knife mishap, and tried to look professional. She growled when I touched her arm, like she couldn't decide whether to eat me or thank me. Her skin was rough, faintly scaled, hot to the touch, and covered in marks that didn't look like any medical chart I'd seen. I muttered something stupid like, "Relax, I'm just checking your vitals." And that, apparently, was the exact phrase in her language that translates to, "I accept your fertility and offer my body in eternal union." I swear the universe has it out for me. The moment I poured water into her mouth from my bottle, she choked, blinked at me like I'd just given her a diamond ring, and then whispered something guttural and very committed. I thought she was delirious. Nope. Later I found out offering water is basically the Beastwoman version of getting down on one knee. I didn't propose. I just didn't want her to die of thirst. But try explaining that when she's already decided you're her forever mate. Bandaging her wounds was a nightmare. Every time I wrapped cloth around her thigh or brushed her side, she shivered and muttered words that sounded suspiciously like bedroom talk. My translator app beeped once and flashed, marking territory. I dropped the device and decided ignorance was safer. Still, I couldn't stop patching her up. If I didn't, she'd bleed out. If I did, she thought I was consummating vows. Pick your poison, right? When I tried to lift her and carry her toward my ship, she went limp in my arms with this smug, satisfied look like I'd just swept her off to the honeymoon suite. My back nearly gave out, and all I could think was, great. My ancestors fought wars, built empires, and here I am playing intergalactic bridal taxi. The worst part? She purred. I didn't even know aliens purred. It vibrated through my chest and made me question whether I was rescuing her or being claimed like a prize. On the way, I tripped over a rock and swore loudly. She immediately wrapped her tail around me, growling at the ground like the pebble had insulted my honor. Imagine an 8-foot-tall Beastwoman threatening geological formations on my behalf. Romantic, in a terrifying, teeth-baring sort of way. I tried to tell her to calm down, but she pressed her forehead against mine and muttered a vow. At least, that's what it sounded like. My translator coughed out a garbled phrase, "We are now one flesh." Yeah. Try hearing that while you're sweating through your shirt and trying not to drop her. By the time I got her to the medbay, she had fully convinced herself we were married. She clutched my wrist like iron, refusing to let me pull away. Every time I tried to explain, she squeezed tighter and gave me that look that said, "Say one more word and I'll bite something valuable." And look, I'm not a brave man. I folded. I let her keep holding my hand, because fingers are nice to have, and I'd rather not lose mine on my wedding night. That wasn't tea. The funniest part? My attempt at humor. I told her, "Well, if we're married now, I hope you're not expecting a honeymoon suite. The only thing I've got is a bunk bed, instant noodles, and questionable plumbing." She didn't laugh. She purred louder, nodded, and muttered something my translator gleefully rendered as, "Your nest pleases me." And just like that, my crappy ship officially became a love shack in her eyes. She fell asleep clinging to my arm, claws barely retracted, breathing deep like she trusted me more than her own heartbeat. And that's when it hit me, somewhere between pouring water in her mouth and tripping over a rock, I had accidentally become someone's husband. Not just someone's. An alien Beastwoman's. And judging by how tightly she held on, there was no divorce court in this galaxy. So, yeah, I thought I was playing space paramedic. Turns out, I was walking straight into an interspecies marriage contract. And all because I didn't want her to bleed out in a crater. If that's not peak human problem solving, I don't know what is. Breakfast should never decide the fate of interstellar diplomacy, but somehow mine did. I made the mistake of offering her a protein bar first thing in the morning, because what else do you give someone who looks like they could chew through titanium if they weren't half-starved? She sniffed it suspiciously, took a bite, and then looked at me like I'd just whispered the dirtiest proposal in her language. Apparently, giving food in the morning meant something like I pledge my body to your fertile season. All I'd meant was, don't faint before noon. She devoured it like it was a sacred offering, then licked my fingers for crumbs, which, let's be honest, is not something you can experience. That was the start of the day, and it only got weirder from there. I brushed my teeth, normal human hygiene, nothing special. She barged in, saw me foaming at the mouth, and gasped like I was performing some kind of fang-sharpening ritual. She immediately copied me by grabbing the wrong end of the toothbrush and nearly choking herself. When I tried to explain, she grinned with toothpaste all over her face and proudly announced that she was now worthy of sharing the bite of my flesh. The translator spat out the phrase and I nearly dropped dead from laughter and panic at the same time. Then came deodorant. I sprayed under my arms, simple, practical. She caught a whiff and instantly stiffened like I'd just unleashed pheromones of war. She sniffed me, eyes wide, and whispered that my battle musk was intoxicating. I've never felt more ridiculous holding a can of cheap human spray while an alien Beastwoman practically swooned like I was Casanova. If I'd known Axe body spray could start interspecies wars, I would have stayed natural. And God's help me, she tried to repay my rituals in kind. She declared we had to perform a mating dance to prove our union was strong. Her version of a dance involved stumping, clawing the air, and nearly demolishing my cabin. I tried to show her human dancing by pulling up some old karaoke videos. The moment I sang off-key into a broken mic, she dropped to her knees and shouted something that translated as, "He calls the stars with his mating cry." It's not easy being adored for being tone-deaf. I tried cooking instant noodles, thinking maybe if I fed her something warm, she'd calm down. She sniffed the boiling pot like it was witchcraft. When I handed her a bowl, she slurped a noodle, gasped, and declared it the rope of union. Then she tangled one around her tongue and pulled me closer, practically yanking me nose to nose. I don't think I've ever blushed harder while explaining that, no, ramen is not a marriage rope, it's just sodium and regret in string form. But her protectiveness, oh, that was the real comedy. Every time someone pinged my comms, she roared like they were trying to steal her mate. I had to reassure her multiple times that a call from my bank wasn't an alien challenger demanding dual rights for my hand. When I scrolled through old Earth memes on my datapad, she assumed it was a collection of fertility totems. Try explaining Doge to an alien who thinks every such wow, very love caption is ancient human scripture. She bowed to the screen and whispered, "Truly, humans are powerful." The best part? Her absolute terror of my coffee maker. She heard it gurgle, saw the steam, and leapt in front of me with claws out. When I took a sip, she gasped in awe and whispered that I was consuming the black blood of the void without fear. I wanted to tell her it was a Monday morning survival tool, not cosmic Ica, but hey, if she wants to think caffeine makes me fearless, I'll take it. The problem, of course, is that she's overprotective to a fault. When a trader ship docked to sell supplies, she stood in the doorway, arms crossed, demanding a dowry before anyone could speak to me. They tried to haggle for scrap metal. She snarled that only a mountain of bones and jewels could equal my worth. The poor trader nearly wet himself. Meanwhile, I was behind her trying to mime, "Sorry, she's new to human customs, don't mind her." I walked away with triple the supplies for half the credits. Turns out, intergalactic intimidation pays better than coupons. I should have been annoyed, but I couldn't be. She kept trying to copy me, to fit into my life. She tried wearing one of my t-shirts, which tore at the seams because her shoulders were built like steel beams. She insisted it was mate's armor and wore it proudly anyway, chest practically exploding out of it. She even tried shaving because she saw me do it. Let's just say claws and a dull razor don't mix. She came out nicked but beaming, declaring she was now smooth for our coupling. My brain short-circuited. But the more I saw her try, the more it hit me. Under all the misunderstandings and mistranslations, there was something real. She wasn't just binding herself to me out of instinct. She was genuinely trying to meet me halfway, to understand what humans did, even if she got it hilariously wrong. And yeah, maybe I liked it. Maybe it was flattering, in a terrifying, sweaty, confusing way. By the end of the day, I realized something crucial. Every mundane human habit of mine had been elevated into sacred ritual. Eating breakfast, brushing teeth, spraying deodorant, singing karaoke, even boiling noodles. To her, all of it proved I was some legendary mate worth following. To me, I was just a guy trying not to die of second-hand embarrassment. But the universe? The universe was laughing its ass off. Because somewhere along the way, she wasn't just the Beastwoman I rescued. She was becoming the partner I couldn't imagine not having around, even if she thought ramen was holy rope and axe spray was an aphrodisiac. The first time another alien saw us together, I knew my life was officially over. We'd barely stepped off my ship when a group of merchants spotted her at my side, tail curled protectively around my waist like I was contraband she was smuggling. One merchant froze, eyes wide, then bowed so hard his forehead hit the floor. He muttered something about the chosen mate of the beast clans. My translator calmly explained that I had apparently unlocked legendary husband status. And just like that, my reputation went from anonymous human nobody to interstellar folk hero, the idiot who married a beastwoman by accident. News spread faster than bad Wi-Fi. Every time we walked through a market, someone whispered about the tiny human who tamed a beast mate. Rival males gave me death glares, not because they wanted to fight me, but because they couldn't believe I'd beaten them to the punch. One of them even challenged me to prove my worth. I thought he meant in combat. Nope. He pulled out a massive jug of fermented alien nectar and insisted on a drinking contest. I had two options, refuse and lose face, or drink and die. I drank. I gagged. And I won. Because apparently humans have livers made of stubborn spite. He collapsed foaming at the mouth. She kissed my forehead like I'd just slaughtered an army. To this day, I'm known on 3 moons as the iron-gutted mate. Not my proudest title, but I'll take it. The real nightmare started when vendors began giving us couple discounts. One merchant handed me a honeymoon package of scented oils and extra-large bedding. She sniffed it, licked her lips, and declared it perfect for our nest. I tried to return it, but she carried it back to the ship with this smug grin like she couldn't wait to test the durability. I've never wanted to die from embarrassment more than explaining to my AI why we suddenly had 6 crates of alien massage gel in the cargo bay. And the suitors, gods, the suitors. Some aliens didn't believe I deserved her. They thought she'd been tricked, or that I'd enslaved her somehow. One particularly shiner-scaled warrior strutted up, flexed his biceps, and declared he'd take her from me. She laughed so hard she nearly broke a rib. Then she wrapped her tail tighter around me and loudly announced, "This mate satisfies all my hungers." My translator flashed red, then politely suggested I shield miners from the next part. Every alien in earshot either gagged or applauded. I considered spontaneous combustion as an exit strategy. But the thing is, HFY moments kept sneaking in. While rivals flexed muscles and boasted of hunting trophies, I fixed things. One time, the spaceport's loading dock broke, stranding 3 freighters. While they debated honor and muscle, I pulled out duct tape, a wrench, and a sarcastic comment about OSHA violations. 10 minutes later, problem solved. The crowd went silent. Then they erupted in cheers. Apparently, repairing infrastructure with stubborn practicality was more impressive than slaughtering beasts. She beamed at me, chest puffed out, and shouted, "See? My mate conquers without claws." And just like that, humans gained a reputation for dangerous ingenuity. Every market trip turned into comedy theater. Sellers treated me like royalty, offering discounts if I'd blessed their stalls with my mate's pheromones. She, of course, leaned into it, telling everyone how strong I was, how skilled, how endlessly satisfying. Half the time, She exaggerated so much I thought my ears would burn off. I'm handy with tools, sure, but apparently, in her retelling, I was also the inventor of endless stamina, master of tongue rituals, and the only male who can please both galaxy and mate. Do you know how hard it is to keep a straight face when your alien wife is telling strangers about your alleged abilities in, let's call them bedroom athletics? I wanted the ground to swallow me. She wanted the galaxy to know she'd hit the jackpot. It wasn't all embarrassing, though. Somewhere between the ridiculous rumors and the jealous stares, I started to see her differently. Not just as the Beastwoman I accidentally rescued, but as someone who actually believed in me. She wasn't praising me to mock me. She genuinely thought my duct tape fixes and awkward humor were divine. She believed humans were special, not because we were the strongest or the fiercest, but because we made others feel safe, cared for, chosen. And that's when it hit me. HFY wasn't about conquering with weapons. It was about conquering hearts with the kind of stubborn humanity that fixes broken things, whether it's a spaceport dock or a lonely beastwoman's trust. Of course, the galaxy didn't see it that way. They just saw a weird couple turning markets into soap operas. We couldn't walk 10 feet without someone offering us nest-building starter kits. One vendor even tried to sell us a breeding hammock. I didn't even ask. She, naturally, thought it was romantic, and I had to drag her away before we walked out with more intergalactic furniture than I had cargo space for. My AI now has a running inventory file labeled, questionable honeymoon purchases. I don't check it. I value my sanity. The peak of absurdity came when we visited a council chamber. They expected warriors, diplomats, strategists. Instead, they got me, a sarcastic human with mismatched socks, and her, glaring at everyone who breathed too close. When questioned about my intentions, I said the only thing that felt true. Look, I didn't mean to end up anyone's mate. But if being decent to someone counts as marriage, then fine. Call me husband of the year. The chamber fell silent. Then they applauded. Actual applause, like I'd just solved galactic unity with basic empathy. She looked at me with such pride I thought my ribs would crack from the weight of it. By the time we left, my reputation had snowballed. Traders whispered about the human who won loyalty without a fight. Rivals spread rumors that I possessed mystical stamina. And my beastwoman mate? She strutted beside me like she'd won the lottery, occasionally patting me on the head like I was her prized possession. I should have been insulted. Instead, I couldn't stop smiling. Somehow, through all the misunderstandings, all the double meanings, all the accidental proposals, I'd become exactly what she wanted, her mate. I should have known something was up when she insisted we stop at a moon-sized bazaar before heading back to Earth. She kept calling it preparations for our binding. I thought she meant food, tools, maybe a replacement engine part. Instead, we walked away with 3 crates of ceremonial feathers, an incense burner the size of my torso, and what I can only describe as the world's most aggressive-looking wedding collar. I protested, naturally, but she shushed me with that smug grin that always meant trouble. Apparently, in her culture, if your mate didn't complain, you weren't doing it right. The event itself was chaos wrapped in tradition and sprinkled with double meanings. First came the trial of endurance, which, to my horror, turned out to be dancing. Not fighting, not running, just a bizarre, tail-thrashing dance in front of a crowd. She spun with feral grace, while I flailed like a wind-up toy with bad batteries. The audience laughed, cheered, and tossed what looked like glowing fruit at us. I slipped on one, caught myself, and by sheer accident twirled her into my arms at the exact beat of the music. They roared like I'd just invented romance. She whispered against my ear, perfect mating display. I nearly swallowed my tongue. Then came the sharing of sustenance. I thought it was just dinner. No. It was basically a galaxy-wide proposal. She shoved a chunk of roasted beast into my mouth, eyes locked on mine, while the crowd chanted something suspiciously like consummate. I chewed, swallowed, and prayed no one asked for dessert. Of course, she did. She licked the juice off her claws and fed me another piece, slow, deliberate, practically glowing with pride. By then I knew there was no way out. I'd been married by menu. The climax, pun very much intended, was the nesting vow. Picture me standing awkwardly while she announced to everyone that we'd already built a nest together. The ship, my bed, the blankets. The fact that she had shed fur on the pillow was, according to her, proof enough. The council scribes nodded like this was legally binding. Someone lit the incense. Someone else rang a gong. And then they wrapped that massive collar around my neck, clicked it shut, and declared me mated for life. I expected laughter, ridicule, maybe even a riot. Instead, the crowd erupted in applause. Humans had officially joined the pantheon of ridiculous but respected alien traditions. Of course, she leaned into it. She paraded me around like a prize trophy, tail coiled possessively around my waist, telling anyone who'd listen that her mate could outlast any rival, repair any machine, and satisfy any hunger. My translator kept overheating, desperately censoring words it clearly considered explicit. By the end, it just gave up and displayed a warning, user discretion advised. I wanted to crawl into a hole. She wanted to broadcast it across the galaxy. But here's the twist I didn't see coming. Somewhere in the middle of all that absurdity, between the fruit dances, the meat proposals, and the never-ending innuendo, I realized I wasn't pretending anymore. At first, I thought her affection was a misunderstanding, a string of mistranslations and cultural mishaps. But when she pressed her forehead against mine, claws gentle at the back of my neck, and whispered, "You are mine," something inside me finally admitted I wanted to be. Not out of obligation. Not because the galaxy demanded it. Because she made me laugh when I wanted to scream. Because she believed in me when I barely believed in myself. Because, against all odds, this Beastwoman thought a duct-tape human was the best thing to ever happen to her. And that's when I leaned in, kissed her properly for the first time, and said the words I swore I'd never say in public, "Yeah, I'm yours." The crowd went ballistic. Fireworks. Music. Some alien even fainted. My AI piped up, warning, social standing irreversibly altered. No kidding. From that moment, I wasn't just the guy who rescued a Beastwoman. I was the human who proved that love, in all its messy, hilarious, double entendre glory, could bridge species, cultures, and galaxies. Naturally, the comedy didn't stop there. That night, she carried me over the threshold of my own ship like I was the blushing bride. My AI recorded it. She set the nest, our bed, on fire by accident with incense. I put it out with a fire extinguisher while she declared it a fertility omen. Every mistake turned into ritual. Every misstep turned into proof. And as much as I rolled my eyes, as much as I tried to downplay it, part of me loved every second. Because for once, the galaxy wasn't laughing at me. They were laughing with me. In the end, it wasn't about the titles, or the rumors, or the absurd ceremonies. It was about the fact that she saw me, really saw me, and still wanted me. The human with bad dance moves, stubborn humor, and a knack for fixing broken things had somehow become the center of her world. And she? She became mine. The Beastwoman who mistook sandwiches for proposals and blankets for marriage contracts turned out to be the best mistake I ever made. So yeah, maybe I'm the galaxy's strangest husband. Maybe our love story sounds like a punchline. But standing there, watching her snore like a freight train while curled around me like I was the last blanket in the universe, I couldn't help but think, if this is a joke, I hope it never ends. Because in the middle of all the laughter, somewhere between the double meanings and the misunderstandings, we found something real. Something worth keeping. Something worth fighting for. And if that's not the most human thing ever, I don't know what is.